It's a great pleasure to have you on today's webinar, which is themed Securing Your Hybrid Work Environments with a Zero Trust Approach. I'm Tolulope, a customer excellence strategist with Reliance Infosystems, and your anchor for the webinar. So I'd like to just intimate us with some of the housekeeping rules. We have this presentation recorded, and it will be made available based on demand. So for a seamless flow, just to have decorum, we have all attendees muted, videos are also turned off. However, we want you to engage with us as much as you can. So do drop your questions, your comments at any point as we proceed, drop them in the chat window, and of course, our team will do well to respond to each of those questions. So I'd like to introduce our speakers for the webinar. I have Sandra. Sandra is a cybersecurity solutions architect. She's one of the facilitators for the webinar. I also have with me Semu. Semu is a network and security engineer. And I also have Timidayo. Timidayo is a cybersecurity engineer as well. So the three of them will take us through the webinar in proper. And just to provide context on what to expect, so we will start with an introduction of who we are at Reliance Infosystems and why we do what we do. Then we'll also look at the cybersecurity trends that is common to the modern work environment. Then after that, we'll also look at the typical parameters of the hybrid work and the vulnerabilities that is evident, and how the zero trust network access helps to protect against this risk. We'll be spotlighting the Sophos ZTNA, and then we'll just take a cursory look at virtual private network and ZTNA, how ZTNA helps us to, protect your organizations beyond the security risk and limitation that is peculiar to virtual private network. And after that, we have a question and answer segment. So I'll delve straight into the introduction. Reliance Infosystems, we pride ourselves as a leading and global ICT organization. We are headquartered in Canada. However, we are physically present in 10 countries. We also have digital footprints that spans through 50 countries across the globe. And as an organization, we are focused on helping businesses to leverage the power of technology to achieve your unique goals and competitive edge. So we actually have been able to come this far because of our success outcome philosophy, where we see our customers as partners, and we are fully involved in the journey they take from point A to their desired business outcome. So we measure our success based on the progress that would help our customers to achieve. And with this philosophy, we've grown to become a 3-time winner of the Microsoft Partner of the Year award. We are a Sophos Platinum Partner as well. We've also won the Sophos Partner of the Year award and gained recognition as a key player in the IT space. So going forward, I'd like to talk about our competency and expertise. We have been recognized as Microsoft Solution Partner for all our 6 key solution areas. So we also have advanced specialization that cuts across all these solution areas. So you can trust us to have the right expertise, the right experience to protect, secure, and help you grow your business. And when it comes to meeting our customers' needs, we work with a wide range of partners and OEMs just to ensure that you get the best tools, the best technologies for your organization. And speaking about our solutions and services, we build all the solutions and services we provide around our 3 success pillars, which I'll speak on briefly. The business transformation pillar is the first. Here, we help businesses to transform digitally in order to ensure that they reduce the cost of operation, they improve efficiency and productivity. So one solution we provide here is the identity and access management solution. Next is the operational excellence pillar, where we infuse excellence in how businesses connect data, people, and systems, just to ensure that you are free from all form of blockers that is common to the modern work space, and achieve unparalleled business outcome. And finally, we have the protection assurance pillar, which is the focus of our webinar today. So we offer you rest of mind as a service so that you can focus on your core business goals, your core business operations without flinching or worrying over the threat landscape of today. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to my colleague who will take you through the cybersecurity trends that is common to the modern workplace. However, before then, I'd like to engage us with a quick poll on what do you think are the cybersecurity trends that is common to the hybrid work. What are the biggest cybersecurity trends for the hybrid work? So you can engage with that in the chat window. Over to you, Sandra.
Thank you very much, Tolulokwe. And we are pleased to have everyone join us on the webinar today. So we say thank you for making our time to be a part of this today. So I'm going to be taking us through a few trends that I'm sure many of us are well familiar with when it comes to cybersecurity and the work of the day. So first off, we want to consider the word that says security is only as strong as the weakest link. I believe everyone on the call will agree with me that as much as we try to deploy a lot of solutions, adopt new technologies to our businesses for better productivity and, of course, a very perfect workflow, we see that the users still play a key part when it comes to the usage and adoption of those technological tools that has been introduced to our businesses. So you want to agree with me as well that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, which is saying that even when those technologies are being introduced to the businesses and of course, the users also get to adopt those technologies, how well are they enlightened? How well are they aware of what happens and what goes wrong if they mistakenly use those particular technology in a way that doesn't seem so right, or maybe they're careless with the use of it. So in the hybrid work of today, we can see that the whole work environment has changed, right from when COVID came through to the world. And we can see that a lot of businesses do not just adopt the remote work alone, but rather many businesses do not even have to invest so much in physical infrastructure, meaning having to have a lot of their employees come to work to a physical office that joins everyone together. No, rather, everyone work from different places. And we can see that the hybrid environment this day, having people work in different places, has introduced more digital attack and surfaces, even complexity. And of course, it risks the whole network perimeter, and everything has become so porous. So it boils down to the kind of network the users are working on at that point in time. And it also boils down to the location where that particular person is working from and how secured is the person. And even the work devices issued by the office, how many people are compliant with some of those policies, probably just a simple Windows update and all that. How many people ensure that they have to set up their operating system to be updated when there are new updates. So there are key areas of consideration that we need to consider when we're talking about a secured workspace or a secured environment. Just as the case is right now, it's the hybrid work. Not many people work out of a physical location, an office or something. So first of all, we want to consider the the adoption of new technologies, devices such as IoT devices, Internet of Things. We know that when there are new things, there are new challenges. So every new technology, every new trend, every new solution, every new package that ensures for productivity will always come with its pros and its cons. So it is now left to us as administrators or as businesses to ensure that when those new technologies are being introduced, when they're introduced to the business, the workspace for the users, we ensure that the users get the right awareness and they are well sensitized as to the use of those devices and not to abuse those technologies that has been put in place. And also we can tell that there is an increasing rate in ransomware attack, and it's very, very easy for those guys to operate nowadays because they request for ransom after data is encrypted and they get a hang of very, very sensitive data. And once they have access to those data, they don't even have to send your account details to forward up money for ransom. Rather, they do it through cryptocurrencies, and that is really making their attack and their workspace very, very, very I would say secured, such that no one can even trace all of those transactions. So we want to be sure that we keep the environment safe, we keep our users safe, and we don't just leave all of the whole workload to the users alone to say that it's their duty to work on their secure parts, because you have provided the technology, and whatever they do with that technology matters not. Of course, it should be a bother to the business because their sensitive data, their critical business workloads, that when they get impacted, it becomes a problem to the business. It's either it makes the business lose money or probably the business loses its reputation in the outside world. So we also want to consider different attack surfaces on cloud services. You would also agree with me that as much as we want to adopt the hybrid workspace where we have a lot of people work from different locations, most of our services right now are being migrated to the cloud. They are mostly hosted on the cloud. And if the users are not well sensitized, if they are not aware of the threat that is even, I would say, available or open in the cloud space, they would be so careless and they'll be like, oh, the fact is I'm working from a channel and I feel like there should be a secured part and all that, even though there's a mechanism in place. But we as users also have to be conscious with the use of those technology. And like I said, so many attacks being focused on the cloud services now. So that is also one area we should look out for as a business. And also want to look at the outdated and inefficient system. So like I mentioned, businesses try as much as they can to roll out policies when there are new policies for devices, or how many users are compliant enough to go through all of those processes. When there's a prompt to say that, oh, get your Windows updated, how many people go through that process? So these are ways to also sensitize our users to say that for a new update, for a new patch to be introduced to a machine, it simply means that a vulnerability has been noticed on the previous version that was being used, and there's a need to move ahead of that. There's a need to stay secure. There's a need to stay in line and in check to ensure that we are not the spot for vulnerability or the point of call and action when there's an issue. And also want to consider the risks involved in remote work and all that. Like I said, a lot of us work out of the offices, and at some point in time, maybe there could be an issue with your workspace and you want to just try out somewhere else to work, and who knows who is working by you. You don't know the next person, the internet you're connected to, even though it's your personal internet. There are guys that are very smart enough to even do something on your own personal internet and they get access to the company data. So it becomes an issue. So we also need to sensitize our users on the increased rate in social engineering, phishing, email phishing, tailgating, third-party applications, and a lot of things like that. So these are things that we also need to put out to the users. And also, last but not the least, we also need to consider the use of multi-factor authentication. We see that a lot of times, even when businesses enforces those policies to users, many people can still have that bypass done, such that they want to log into their business workloads on cloud, and they're like, okay, you know what, I'm signing in right now. Don't ask me for the MFA until the next sign in after 30 days, which is not right. It is not supposed to be so, but it can be bypassed. So that those are things that also need to be put out to users to ensure that the business is safe and data is safe. And the most important thing, like the whole summary of this, is data privacy. We are sure that the business is compliant when it comes to handling data. And I can tell that not almost all the businesses operate such that they work hand in hand with other businesses. Like it was rightly mentioned, we Reliance are partners with everyone. And obviously, it means that we have data that pertains to every other businesses we work with. So what happens when we are careless with data and probably gets into the hands of the wrong person? So it means that we are not even working with the CIA of data confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So it is a breach of agreements. So pretty much these are things that we need to look out for to ensure that our environment is safe and secure at every point in time. And also not to go far, not far-fetched. So today we're going to be looking at the key principles of how to secure our work environments, hybrid work environments, using the zero trust network technology that we are going to be talking about. So I will just put it to us to say that when you hear the word zero trust, of course, it should give us an understanding that this is not just giving you a solution to ensure that users are safe, but rather it ensures that whoever is going to be accessing your services on cloud, on premise, or wherever it is that is hosted, is the right person. The person is who they say they are. Even when the person has to authenticate, the authorization needs to be verified and to be sure and validated to be sure that the person who is going to be having access to those data, services, and application are the right set of people. So now we can say that zero trust technology or strategy is actually one thing businesses should consider like a top of mind for businesses, because of course it helps to explicitly give permissions to users, and it considers every users on the network as being compromised and users that are vulnerable. So pretty much this is something we need to look out for as businesses. So right about now, I'll be handling to my colleague that will be taking us through how to understand what zero trust technology is, and also the best approach to securing a hybrid workflow. Thank you very much once again.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining. Understanding zero trust, a hybrid work environment. Today, it's me that has been moving to hybrid by employees that choose to work in the office or decide to work from home. So it has become important to implement the zero trust security into our critical business resources, because cyber threats are constantly evolving. The way attackers are coming into environment is they are not using single techniques. There are different techniques. They are coming with different ways to the business environment. And the normal traditional security approach are no longer sufficient in protecting the organization and resources. So this is where zero trust approach. What happens when zero trust approach? It assumes that all users, all devices, and applications are potentially malicious. So it needs to be verified. They need to go under processing whereby you validated the users, you validate the device the users is using to connect to access office resources. And zero trust approach provide better control over who access the risk of data breach. So to implement zero trust into our hybrid work environment is very simple. So what the organization needs to do is this. Organization needs to focus on securing all endpoints, including laptops, mobile devices that we use, then the IoT devices, as well as ensuring all cloud. We've to cloud is not only on-premise. They have hybrid whereby they have both on-premise and cloud. So if an organization can understanding and implementing of zero trust approach into their work hybrid environment, this will help organizations to better protect the data, resources, and as well ensuring that remote workers can easily access resources they need to perform their job functions easily. Let's take a look at perimeter. Let's take whoever accessing resources is being verified. Okay, so in this case, users are no longer, they need to be verified, they need to be checked before accessing any company, resources, and as well just to ensure that whoever that is accessing is verified. Whoever accessing is verified, it needs to be checked. Then The perimeter, like I mentioned, includes all the firewall and every other security that you have put in place. However, with the adoption of cloud computing, mobile devices, remote workforce, and the perimeter, this perimeter we put in place are no longer sufficient. They are no longer reliable to defend our cyber attack. Attacker can bypass this perimeter through social engineering, phishing attack, by exploiting vulnerability or software into our.
Apologies, everyone. We do apologize for that breaking transmission. Semi is experiencing network issues at his hand, so we would have Temidayo step in on his behalf to continue with the presentation.
Okay, so good day, everyone. Apologies for the slight interruption. So just to kick off where my colleague left off. So basically, when it comes to Zero Trust focuses on identifying users or devices or any sort of asset within your environment, trusting no one, basically. So to ensure that your environment is well protected. So traditional organizational environments usually focus more on the internal asset, meaning as long as you're within the internal network, you are basically trusted. But in today's modern era, that network architecture basically doesn't, it's no longer valid or it's no longer secured in that sense, because nowadays organizations focuses more on BYOD, or bring your own devices, in which case in scenarios whereby users can bring their personal devices into the organization's work environment. And if the organization doesn't take account of these devices or these connections within the environment, they can easily subject themselves to any sort of malicious attack. So a good scenario is, let's say a user system was compromised and the user brings that system to the organization's environment and connects to the organization's network. And the organization doesn't have any solution for internal monitoring or assessment. Basically, the user can easily infect users connected to the network. And this can also spread to other users that might be connecting remotely. This doesn't just include your staff members that might be using any sort of remote connection. This can also include third-party organizations that are connecting to you. So this can easily spread such malicious attack around the world and to other users as well. So that's why Zero Trust has come into play, to be able to curb or basically isolate this scenario within the workplace. And due to organizations taking use or utilizing the hybrid work environment, basically where users can work remotely, this has also come into play as well, to be able to properly secure and manage users and devices connecting to your network or assets at any point in time and from any location. So we'll be looking at the typical cybersecurity implementation. So basically, users tend to have most of their assets, be it users' devices, their servers, their application, web environment within their enterprise or within the organization, and they only have a single means of access. In most cases, it's always going to be a gateway devices. Some organizations still utilize a router for this approach, while others tend to utilize a firewall for this. So basically, they trust most of their devices within the internal network, but every other devices outside the network basically is untrusted, meaning any sort of connection from the outside network has to be analyzed, scanned, and many others before it's granted access to your internal environment. But the major flaw with this is that most times administrators tend to give implicit trust to users within the environment, and in some cases, users that are not qualified or that don't have the right permissions tend to have access to some of these internal services. Like a good example now, you have your security staff members who have, let's say, a company system, and they have access to your company's database. That doesn't make sense because they don't have any reason, any authorization to have access to said assets in any way or form. Or you can have your normal staff members having access to the financial or Sage server. So in that case, that's a very wrong architecture, because if at any point in time the user is compromised either through social engineering, phishing attacks, or any other means, they can easily compromise the entire organization. And this is where Zero Trust comes into play as well, to basically isolate or mitigate this current design architecture. Aside from that, most users do tend to fall victim when utilizing VPN solutions as well. So VPN also provides the same level of connectivity, in which case, scenario whereby once a user connects through a VPN solution, they tend to have access to the full organization assets. So let's say, okay, you're utilizing the remote work approach, and all of a sudden users require access to some servers or applications on-prem. In most cases, when administrators are configuring this VPN, depending on the limitation of the VPN application, they can easily just grant full access to the whole network subnet. And a normal staff member that doesn't require access to, let's say, the Sage or any other application already has access to it. And let's say the user is compromised now by malware or a remote access Trojan. The attacker can easily take control of that VPN solution and compromise your environment as well. And one of the major flaws of this also is that users that are connecting remotely, administrators don't have visibility of what exactly the user is doing on the network. You don't have visibility to what exactly the user is connecting to, what sort of configuration or changes were made, and which files or applications were being downloaded or accessed on your network. So these are just some of the major flaws with the current typical perimeter security. So we'll be asking a short question, and that will be a simple question which focuses on the organization's current architecture. So we'll be asking this question, which is, does the organization currently utilize a VPN solution or a VPN at all? So I would like us to take our time to respond to that question in the poll. So basically, we'll now be looking at, okay, what exactly is zero trust? Since we've already spoken about our current network or perimeter design, architecture design, what exactly does zero trust entail? So zero trust focuses on your entire asset and ensuring that whatever device is connecting to your asset or connecting to your environment is granted explicit permission to do so. Basically, trust no one. A good example is, let's say the CEO has a company device, and all of a sudden the company device is damaged, and all of a sudden the CEO now says, oh, I want to use my own personal device. And because it's the CEO, you just want to grant him direct access to all the resources. So you need to look into this and make sure that, oh, whoever is connecting has to be explicitly stated to be able to access said service before you grant them access to said service. And not only do you focus on that, you also have to ensure that the device they're using to connect is well protected, ensuring that it's up to date, proper malicious protections are in place, and at the same time, you also have to ensure that whoever is connecting has to be properly authenticated. So that's where multi-factor authentication also comes into play, to ensure that whoever is connecting to your assets has the right authorization and privilege to do so. So in today's world, basically, IT is always evolving, and so does our network architecture has to also take this same approach as well. Nowadays, most applications aren't run on premises anymore. Most of them are either cloud-based solutions or software as a service solutions, and you have users accessing these services both remotely and within the organization's enterprise. So you need to ensure that users are given the right authorizations to access any of these said services at any point in time. So zero trust ensures that when users are accessing the services, they have the right permission to do so. They also ensure that even though they are working remotely and the right authorization or explicit permission has been granted to them, they can easily access or securely access the services, and they don't go beyond the devices or the solutions that have been, or the applications that have been specified for them. So let's say you specify that, oh, I want the finance team to only have access to a Sage server. That means the finance team only has access to Sage server. And the good thing about zero trust is that I can even go further in that sense. That let's say you only want some of the finance team to view records and not make changes. You can also have achieved that as well. So basically, you grant explicit permissions to each individuals within your organization. So, and one major thing to focus on is that the current architecture that we utilize aren't suitable to achieve most of this. A lot of organizations still utilize stateful firewalls. Some are already utilizing next generation firewalls. But to have proper visibility into all this, that needs to come about with a change. And for organizations that also utilize VPN solutions to achieve this as well, also need to look into some of these solutions to provide them with proper visibility and control into their organization's assets. So basically, we'll be looking at the differences between between VPN and ZTNA. So for VPN solutions, most times once you have a VPN solution installed in your environment, this tends to grant full access to all the services within your environment. So let's say a user connects. Once they connect and they are validated, there's no way to check the user system. There's no way to check what exactly to check if the system is well protected or if the system itself is compromised. And at the same time, it usually grants them full access to all your resources or your assets within the network. And this is one major issue that has to be rectified when it comes to security, because most times VPN solutions always require just a 2 means of authentication. In most cases, this is usually username and password. And in most cases, due to social engineering or due to previous compromises, some users might be utilizing compromised credentials. And once an attacker can gain advantage of this, they can have full access to your network environment. And one major thing to look out for is that once this attacker has full access to this environment, in most cases they don't. It's always undetected because there's no way to have proper visibility. You just think that, oh, it was John that connected to my network asset around 1 a.m. in the middle of the night. There's no way to validate. There's no way to even view what exactly that said user is doing within the network at that specific time. So ZTNA basically comes into play to mitigate most of these issues that comes with unknown and implicit trust. So basically, with ZTNA, not only do you validate the user, you also validate the device that you're connecting with. You also validate the services that they'll be accessing. And at the same time, you also monitor or have proper visibility to all the activities that are being carried out by said individual or user as well. So with ZTNA, you can easily implement multi-factor authentication, whereby you don't just depend on username and password. You also utilize other solutions such as multi-factor authentication to properly identify the user. Also monitor the user system and ensure that the user system health is actually up to standard or up to code. Then you only grant user access to specific resources within your environment and not to all the resources within your environment compared to the VPN solution. Then we also have another question, again, another poll question. This focuses on the VPN solution and asks this question: who exactly has access to your organization's VPN? Is it just your staff members, or your staff members and remote users, or your staff member, remote users, and third party? Please kindly fill in the poll in the chat. Thank you. Then to further go into detail in this, as I said previously, Zero Trust, or ZTNA basically, so that's Zero Trust Network Architecture, focuses on trust, implicit trust, basically, ensuring that whoever is connecting or whoever wants to connect to your resources, be it in the cloud, be it on premises, are properly verified. So as I said before, it carries out multiple approach to verify not only the user, but the device they'll be using to connect to your resources, as well as the assets they can access within your environment. So it provides implicit trust and ensures that whoever is connecting to your resources are properly envisioned to do so. And a good example of this is, in most cases, some organizations tend to work with third parties, in the sense like maybe a third party that manages, let's say, your SIM solution and the likes. And in most cases, organizations tend to grant this access not only to the organizational staff members, but to this third party as well. And in most cases, they don't provide proper restrictions. So these are just some of the things we need to look out for when it comes to our previous network architecture. And this is also what Zero Trust aims to improve within organizations' architecture going forward. So with all that being said, Zero Trust basically provides a lot of values to the organization. The first one would be it provides implicit trust, ensures that not only the user but the device that the user is using to connect, as well as the application, that they'll be accessing, are being properly granted to them. It also provides micro-segmentation, ensuring that user only has access to that specific application and nothing else. It also ensures device health, making sure that the device connecting to your environment is well secured. It provides a work from anywhere approach, in the sense that users can access these services not only on premises but remotely as well. It also focuses on transparency, ensuring that the administrator can have proper visibility to what exactly is going on within the environment. Also provides simple implementation in the sense that users don't have to go through multiple hurdles to utilize said application or said feature. And at the same time, it offers a simple solution in the sense that it's very easy to deploy and implement. And at the same time, new solutions or new applications or new technologies can be easily integrated with ZTNA without any additional features or additional requirements from the admin team. So I'll be handing over to my colleague who will be taking us on the solution that can actually provide these ZTNA related features to your organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today, we'll be talking about there are different ZTNA offered by different OEMs, but we'll be looking at Sophos ZTNA. Why we have choose to focus on Sophos ZTNA today, the features that you can explore using the Sophos ZTNA. Let's take a quickly look at this short video that speaks about Sophos ZTNA. All right, thank you. From the short video, you can see it's very simple, so clear that with Sophos ZTNA, you can easily identify who is connecting remotely. Not only Sophos ZTNA would authenticate users, it also validates the device the user is using to access company's resources. Let me give you an example. Let's a user is trying to connect to access data resources, and is using a friend's a colleague's laptop that is not a compliance. Such system won't be able to connect because it's not using a organizational compliance machines to access company's data. So that's how ZTNA works. So you only connect, you only access resources with the compliance machines. If the system is not a company's machines, such users won't be able to connect. Compared to where you have a VPN. VPN gives you, what VPN gives you is that you have access to all resources. You have access to all connections once you authenticate with your username and password. VPN doesn't go beyond validating. I mean, it will go through a continuous check or verification of your device. So you only have access to the entire network. But ZTNA will not, suppose ZTNA will not allow that. It will keep a continuous check apart from your user validates the device, then give you an access to a specific application or resources, not the entire network. So let's look at the VPN management compared to ZTNA management. With this VPN management, it creates a profile for the users who wants to connect. Then in a scenario whereby you have multiple locations or you have multiple gateways, the VPN will also need to go through all these multiple gateways with a multiple profile, meaning if you have a different office, like I said, if you have a different office and you have firewall or for these locations, for you to access these resources, you may need to log out to a particular VPN and sign into another VPN before you can access resources. Then as well, you need to assign users access to each profile, installing the VPN clients from each users to another user, from one location to another location, install each required profile. So there is a lot of process when it comes to VPN management. Let's look at compare it to ZTNA management. If you look at ZTNA management, is smoothly, it's very straightforward, not that difficult to manage. You can create your resources and your resources based on who you want to allocate these resources to, that which users or group. Are you do you have an HR or accounting firm in your environment? You have an auditor that you have a specific access to a particular application. You can as well create that resources for each individual or group of department. Let's say an HR wants to access some of their ERP and applications that speaks to only HR. You can as well create that. And please don't forget, you can ask questions in the chat. I will be able to provide an answer to your question. If you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat as well. So then, aside from that, it can be easily added to your existing or Sophos endpoint agent. So it's easy to deploy or manage. So managing the Sophos ZTNA is very easy. It's not as tasky as how you manage your VPN today. So we're looking at VPN challenges. What are the big VPN challenges that we usually encounter, or we encounter? What users are facing in an environment where you have a VPN? You build users that are connected today. I'm sure that an IT administrator or whoever manages a VPN profile, VPN account will agree with me that sometimes, most times, the complaints of forget password, is installing or integrating VPN might be challenging because it's going to require the administrator rights. So it takes a lot of challenge for you to implement and setting up a VPN. Implicit trust, meaning once you give access to users and access to a VPN profile, users gain access to the entire network. So because what is VPN will only required from you is just the username and password. And once you authenticate, you have access to the entire network as well. So hackers are taking advantage of this VPN because they can create a vulnerability into your softwares or your devices you are using to connect. And VPN also creates a lateral movement if there is any scene or any issues or attacks coming into a specific on the users connected remotely or an account. Such users who connect into that network can literally move within the network because VPN has given you access to the entire network and it spread. It can snip data, snip information from the network environment. So there's a lot. There's also no device compliance health. The VPN connectivity will not check if your device is compliance. Does it meet the administrator's health status or not? So the VPN does not check all those connectivity. This can cause dangerous strata to your environment as well. So if you look at it, there's also lack of visibility when it comes to VPN. Sometimes, most times, you don't really have visibility to what application they are using, what application are they accessing at that particular time, what are the usage or their status at that particular, what are they consumed. So all these things are just they are majorly some of the challenges that you can experience when you are using a VPN in your environment. It can be frustrating for users at times when connectivity to their office resources. Then difficult to deploy or enroll in new users. Sometimes you forget the password and you cannot be able to, you have to reach out to the administrator to create a new password and change password. So it's a lot of tasks for whoever that will be managing the VPN as well. So why do we choose the Sophos ZTNA? Fine, there are other OEM, but what makes Sophos ZTNA different from other OEM, from other solutions? Why we've chosen Sophos ZTNA is very simple, because it is easy to manage and it's secure your access to application and resources. That is just it. It's the straightforward. So it doesn't give you access to the entire network. It creates a micro-segmentation of application in your network, whereby users only access the specific application allocated to them, and it is simplified the management, meaning whoever will be managing ZTNA, it's easier to manage. It's not that tasky. You can easily deploy these solutions across all the users that you have, across all of your users or your locations as well. Then another thing is that it's not necessarily you must install an agent on user machine before you can use Sophos ZTNA. You can use agents or agentless. So whichever that is suitable for your for your environment, you can deploy it either way. Another thing or important reasons why we choose Sophos ZTNA is that it's easily integrated with the Sophos endpoint. You don't need to start installing another agent. You can easily log in into your Sophos Central, add the components, and the components will easily integrated into your existing Sophos. It's also a list of It's scalable. This can go with your business. Let's say you have large numbers of today you are running 100 of 200 or 300 employees, and in the 2 years or a year's time, you have increased in terms of numbers. You have increased to, let's say, 400 or 500. You can easily accommodate it. You don't need to start changing appliance, or okay, let's say, for example, because of your typical file perimeter that you have put in place, you need to because of typical perimeter put in place or your firewalls, so my firewall cannot accommodate these numbers of traffic any longer. But in this case of ZTNA, no, it is easier to scale and it's cost effective when it comes to Sophos ZTNA. So, and ZTNA is the ideal remote access for replacement of VPN. From what I've mentioned earlier, is enhanced securities, meaning it's removed implicit use trust. If you are not, if Sophos ZTNA doesn't validate the device you are using to connect, or doesn't validate you apart from your user name and password, it won't allow such system to connect. So it depends on how you integrate it, and easier to manage. And there's always the transparency experience that it gives that flexibility as well to work from home, on the road, anywhere or any locations that you are. You can easily connect and access your resources wherever you are located. So using Sophos ZTNA is very, very easy. You can as well, as I mentioned, you can as well integrate with your existing solutions. So you don't need to, because I'm using different endpoints or different these, I cannot integrate Sophos ZTNA. No, you can as well integrate it. So Sophos ZTNA provides a secure, a scalable, and cost-effective solution for organization. So I'll advise any organizations to look into implementing a zero trust approach into their work environment by investing in Sophos ZTNA that will give you a secure and scalable, cost-effective solution for your organization. Thank you. Then move on to if you have any questions, like I said, please you can drop it in the chat, or we are available to answer your questions.
Yeah, once again, I'd like to thank everyone who has stayed up to now for the webinar. So we've come to the question and answer section, and we'll be taking your question. I'm going to the chat window too.
In the absence of questions, I think I have a questions.
Oh, I think we lost Semi for a moment there. Okay, that's fine. So in the chat window, for the first poll, Umaru made a comment on the biggest cybersecurity risk. So Umaru mentioned identity theft as one of the risk peculiar to the hybrid work. So I'll be asking Temidayo to speak on this. How does the Sophos ZTNA protect organizations from identity theft? Temidayo, go ahead, please.
Okay, so thank you. So for identity theft, as my colleague has mentioned before, Sophos protects you from a variety of attacks, and identity theft is one of the major focus. Compared to previous solutions, such as internet connections or any sort of remote connectivity, they usually depend mostly on two forms of authentication, which is usually username and password, meaning anyone that can get said credentials can easily have access to your resources. So with ZTNA, ZTNA offers multi-factor authentication, whereby it doesn't just authenticate you, the user connecting to resources, also authenticates your device to ensure that even the device you're using to connect has been authorized to do so. So it doesn't just only focus on the prior credential, which is usually username and password, but goes more in depth into authenticating both the user and the device before granting them access to your resources.
thank you for that insight, Timidayo. So you'll be sure that with zero trust network access, you can have a comprehensive protection against identity theft. So with this, since we don't have any more questions in the chat window, would be going towards the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for staying through until now. However, we hope to engage you beyond this virtual meet, and we are available for demos, for one-on-one engagements with your stakeholders and your team. So you can feel free to email or send us an email or engage with us even through our socials. We are very active on LinkedIn. In the chat window, my colleague drops a link for the feedback form. So we want you to tell us about your experience during the webinar. So please do feel free to fill that form. Also, we have the interest and solution form that would also be dropped in the chat window. So you can indicate which solution you are interested in so that we can contact you and engage with you beyond this e-meet. So once again, thank you. And of course, the recording for this session will be made available to you even after the webinar. So just in case you missed any part of the presentation, then you can also pass it along to stakeholders on your team. So thank you once again. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.